Welcome to Suffolk Business Today. I'm your host, Gregory Bird, and we're going to begin today's program by talking with the engineering manager for Transoceans Incorporated, a leader in the design, manufacture, as well as distribution of area rugs, home products, and fashion products as well. Later, we'll travel to downtown Suffolk to meet with the owner of Harper's Table, Suffolk's newest restaurant, and we'll see if we can discover what has made this new restaurant all the rave. We'll kick off the program right after this short break. Welcome back to Suffolk Business Today. We're here at Transoceans Incorporated, located in Suffolk Industrial Park, which is about 1/2 mile from downtown Suffolk. I'm joined with Ms. Taryn Branson, engineering manager and family member of this family-owned Transocean business. Thank you for having us, Taryn.
It's my pleasure.
Now, Taryn, despite Transocean's close proximity to downtown, and in fact, its enormous 100,000 plus square foot facility, so it'd be hard to miss, I'm sure a lot of our viewers really don't know what you do here at Transocean. So why don't we begin by giving them kind of the high-level view of what Transocean does.
Sure. So Transocean started out back in the early 1900s as an import business. So traditionally, our business has been importing area rugs from places like China and India and Turkey and Belgium. And as we were importing from across the world, we had various distribution centers located across the United States that would receive in the merchandise coming into the different ports. Well, a couple decades ago, we decided to consolidate into one area. And we looked at all the places where we were and we said, you know, the Hampton Roads area really has the best people and the best opportunity for us as we continue to grow. So we consolidated there in Chesapeake. At that point, we'd been in Chesapeake for a while and we said, you know, we really want to grow some roots here and really make a permanent place here in Suffolk. So we looked around and really the area where we're at now in Suffolk has been fantastic for us as far as giving us the space to grow the business. As you mentioned, we have 100,000 square feet right now. The land we actually purchased gives us room to grow the business even further and put on another 30,000 square feet onto this facility. And we've been really happy with all the roots we put down here so far.
Well, we've certainly been pleased to have you here in Suffolk. Since you are in locations around the country, I understand your headquarters is located in New York.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the different product lines that are provided from Transocean, whether it be here or somewhere else across the United States.
Sure. So our headquarters in White Plains, New York, which is just north of New York City, that's traditionally where we've managed the traditional business. Back in the 90s, we were fortunate enough to have a designer by the name of Leora Monet join our business. She now does all of the design work for our traditional rugs, and she also does a lot of the textile work you can see behind me. She actually developed and patented a unique non-woven process which she had traditionally used to make area rugs. And as that business has kind of grown, we found ways to take that technology and apply it to textiles. So now we can apply it to pillows, home furnishings, fabric upholstery, and all sorts of other products.
Which raises the question, where might I find your products? Obviously, you don't sell any of your products from this facility.
Correct.
Where might I find some of the stores that I might find your products?
We're actually in a variety of different retailers. You can find our products at places like Macy's, Bloomingdale's. You can find us at online retailers such as Frontgate, Grandin Road, LL Bean. We also sell to retailers such as Restoration Hardware and CB2. So we're a little bit all over the place. Fantastic,
fantastic. Well, I understand that you've been here in Suffolk Industrial Park now for a little more than a decade. Aside from the other experiences you've had, are there any other reasons why you thought that this particular location was the best for you?
So obviously proximity to the port has been great for us as a primarily import business. This area is great for us as far as distributing our product throughout the United States and Canada. We've also found the people that we've been able to bring in and keep as part of the Transocean family here have been really stellar. And if it wasn't for them, you know, we'd have a lot more challenges, I suppose.
Well, that's great. Now, just last year, you announced plans to expand by about 30%.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what that expansion is going to entail.
Sure. So as I mentioned, this facility has been a traditional warehouse business. Typically, it's just been importing the products we've been bringing in through port and then distributing it out to retailers throughout the United States. Our manufacturing for the textiles you see behind me has traditionally taken place in China. And with all of the recent changes in the economy, it's starting to make a lot more sense to bring it back in-house, which to me feels really great. So what we're doing is kind of, this is the first phase, the first step of bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. So we're bringing in the finished textiles from China and turning it and converting it into different products here.
Fantastic. Reshoring our manufacturing, an economic developer's dream, I assure you. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share that maybe we haven't told some of our viewers about? Maybe a way that our viewers can learn more about your products?
Sure. We do have our website. It's you can go to transocean.com or leoramanet.com, and that'll kind of give you a good view of the different products we have available, as well as some of the retailers that I'd mentioned.
Taryn has agreed to give us a tour to show us not only what they've been doing here for the last 10 years, but also the plans for the expansion that's on the horizon. We're about to take a tour of Transocean's facility, and before we get started, Taryn, why don't you tell us just how it all began? I know that you all opened your doors officially in October of 2000.
Yeah.
How did it start then with this first structure?
Sure. When we first began, it was really just about a distribution center and warehousing for our product. So as you can see, what's going on behind me is we're unloading containers of rugs coming in from China, repacking them based on customer specifications. The racks behind that are really where we're housing our inventory to either drop ship directly to customers or ship it out to customers' distribution centers. So that's traditionally what the business has been.
Now, you mentioned earlier when we were talking, you get your products from China, you get them from a lot of locations. Tell us again about some of the locations your products are coming from.
Sure. So the products we import are typically coming from India and China and Turkey, depending on the construction. So we have rugs with a variety of constructions, whether it's the traditional wool pile, some real durable indoor-outdoor products. Depending on the country will depend on the type of product we're sourcing from them. One of the things we did, and I think really revolutionized the business a couple, probably decades ago by now, was instead of shipping only to distribution centers, we do a lot of drop shipping for our customers. So for example, if we know that like LL Bean is dropping a catalog or Frontgate's running a special on their website, we'll drop ship directly from here as opposed to sending our product to them and then having them distributed. So we're trying to provide that service for our customers.
Great, great. Well, this behind us represents where you started. That's
Correct.
bringing in your product and shipping it. And as we talked about, you're planning to expand by another 30,000 square feet over the next few years. Tell us about what that expansion represents and some of the equipment that I see here.
Sure. Now, what we have over here is really the seeds for the beginning of our expansion.
Okay, let me take a look.
We want to start gradually into this idea of getting into production. So we want to start by really making sure we're confident in what we're doing and executing. So the first thing we really started with was very simple, was really just this equipment over here. This is for making pillows.
Okay.
So we'll take the textiles that we make and we'll actually have them cut and sewn into pillows, where we blow everything here so it has the loftiness, the softness that you're really looking for in a pillow.
Okay.
From there, as we felt comfortable with that, we really expanded into what you see over here, and this is where we're taking our fabric and turning it into mats. So things like doormats, runners that have a really durable, non-skid rubber backing.
Shall we take a closer look?
Sure.
Now these mats are all of them made by the same designer?
So everything, like you said, is designed by Leora Manet. A couple examples that I have right here, these are our traditional rugs. So you can see you've got your hooks, you've got your tufted,
Sure.
Traditional ones. I mean, some of the really traditional patterns. And then you've got some things here where stripes are a very traditional look,
Right.
but Leora really does a great job with updating it with fresh colors. So based on what's going on in the design world. From here, this is an example of really what Leora is known for. This is her La Montage process.
La Montage?
La Montage is the name of the product and the process. This is a patented non-woven textile technology. And so you can see here how you get this look, this kind of like organic look that you really couldn't get with a traditional rug.
I got it.
And again, everything here you see from her is an indoor-outdoor, very durable product. We found that we could go from this into some more textile weights. These are some placemats that we do. Again, the same process, but just on a lighter weight, so as opposed to something heavier that you'd want to put on your floor. With those same fibers, actually, we have a process that we call Montique, where we essentially laminate the fibers to give it a more modern look, I'll say. Where you really have some interesting things where you've got the fibers kind of melt in between these plastic sheets to give a really unique look that if you look in the marketplace, there's really no one else doing.
And these ultimately will be?
These are placemats.
Placemats, okay.
So as I mentioned, the pillow machine, these are examples of some of the pillows we're doing today, and this is taking again some of the textiles and just really cutting and sewing them into the different shapes.
So this is part of the new work that you're going to be doing as you expand?
Correct.
Okay. And so I'm looking at some other machines here. What's this machine here in the backdrop?
So the equipment that's in the backdrop here that we're looking at is part of what we use to make take the textiles and convert it into rubber back mats. So if we step down the table a little further, I'll show you a little bit more about that. So here what you see is where we took some fabric weight, just like this guy here.
Okay.
As you can see, this is a fabric weight, and we basically are rubber backing it, putting a recycled rubber backing on it to give it non-skid as well as durability for indoor-outdoor applications. And I think the assortment we have here really shows you the different types of looks that we can achieve all with the same textile.
Tell me, if you will, this interesting looking machine back here, what is that used for?
That's actually our die cutting machine. So depending on what products we're cutting will depend on how we're going to cut them. Some of the shapes that we have are actually the shape of a flower or a strawberry, so you can have some really interestingly shaped doormats or bathroom mats. When we're getting into some of the more high precision things such as floor tiles, we want to make sure that every tile is exactly 18 inches by 18 inches. So that equipment that you see behind me there is really for making sure that we're hitting the specs and repeatedly putting out a quality product. So we have 4 sewing stations here. These sewing machines are basically for what we're using for when we're creating the pillows. The fabric, obviously, we're bringing in, blowing the pillows, and we sew them closed here.
Okay. Well, I see that you have 4 sewing stations, and we see the various employees that are packing for you. About how many employees do you have here in Suffolk today?
I think we have about 10 full-time on staff, and then obviously as the demand picks up and as business grows, we're going to be looking to bring on more people.
Well, thank you, Taryn, once again for having us here in your wonderful facility. Before we depart, why don't we give our viewers one last reminder about where they can find your wonderful products?
Sure. You can find our products in store and online with Macy's, retailers like Home Goods, TJ Maxx, as well as with retailers such as Frontgate and LL Bean. And if you want to look for our websites specifically, you can visit transocean.com or leoramana.com.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more of Suffolk Business Today in just a bit. Welcome back to Suffolk Business Today. We have found our way to Harper's Table, downtown Suffolk's newest restaurant, and in fact, it's been all the rave, not just here locally, but across the Hampton Roads region. In just a moment, we're going to meet with Harper Bradshaw, the owner and chief chef for Harper's Table, and learn more about just what the clamor is about Harper's Table. We're joined by Mr. Harper Bradshaw, owner and chief chef for Harper's Table. Thank you for having us, Harper.
Yeah, glad you guys could come.
So tell us, I really have to say that over the last few months, all of my friends across the region have been asking me millions of questions. Says, where's that new restaurant you all have in Suffolk? When are they open? What are their hours? Do we need a reservation? And on and on and on. Not to mention, of course, all of the news articles that we've been reading about this wonderful establishment. So why don't we help folks a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself and just how you managed to decide that Suffolk was your location.
Sure. I went to high school in Suffolk at Nansman Suffolk Academy, and then went away to college and came back. And my wife, Laura, is from Suffolk, and I grew up in Franklin, which is a little bit of a smaller community than Suffolk, and we decided that Suffolk was going to be home for us. So I drove to Norfolk to begin to work in some nice restaurants, and then ended up in northern Suffolk at Vintage Tavern for 5 years, and then decided that it was time to open my own place. And downtown Suffolk just seemed right. It's home for me. Okay. This is where we started our family, and I saw a niche that perhaps we could fill. So here we are, right in historic downtown Suffolk.
That is super, super. Well, and I've read a little bit that, of course, one of the attributes, it's one thing to be able to serve a good menu, but it's another thing for the people that are doing the serving to make people feel welcome. And I know you've talked a lot about the importance of that. Can you tell us a little more about some of the steps you take to try to make sure of that?
Absolutely. I'm a student of hospitality. You know, it's about the experience that we create for the guest. There are lots of places to eat. There are lots of places to grab a drink. Those are very, very important aspects to the restaurant, but it's really a total package of, from the moment the guest calls to make a reservation or walks through the front door, of really just trying to give them an overwhelming feeling of just happiness and hospitality. And little things like keeping water in your glass can really elevate your dining experience. So we hire our staff based on hospitality. Experience is a secondary factor, but how that individual makes you feel is the most important aspect for us.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned that I'd read a number of articles that have already been written about you all, and Michelle Washington with Distinction Magazine uses her headline, "A young chef reclaims and refreshes his Southern roots with a welcoming restaurant in downtown Suffolk." And a specific quote, "The menu bears his Southern roots and upbringing." So tell us a little bit about, you've said you grew up here in Suffolk. Tell us about those roots and how they've impacted what you've put on the menu.
Sure. We're not in a Southern box here. We're in a looking to stay excited and do great food. Southern is the backbone. From the way I was raised, with my grandmother's cooking and going to stay at my grandparents' house and collard greens and macaroni and cheese and barbecue, or just these things that are always going to be special to me. A cast iron pan. So we that finds its way into so much that we do without even necessarily trying to be Southern. We're always going to have country ham in the building. We're always going to have Alan Benton's bacon. We're always going to have these things that are just inherently Southern, but we don't have them to be Southern. We have them because they're so delicious.
Absolutely. And since we're talking, that's a wonderful segue. Our audience is interested in learning about your facility here, your wonderful establishment, the ambiance and everything. But what it really comes down to is what's on the menu. Can you tell us just a few items that you wouldn't want our viewers to miss an opportunity to be aware of?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, the pork belly biscuit, which
yes,
you had the pleasure of experiencing
absolutely
last night.
Recommended highly. Yes, indeed.
Tell us more. It's so simple, but biscuits have as silly as that may sound, have a really special place for me. It's one of my favorite things in the world to make in the kitchen is a biscuit, because it's so simple. As far as ingredients, it's all technique, and it's all finding. It's your hands that make a great biscuit,
Well, you do a great combination, because for something so simple to be so delicious, it just defies the imagination. You just have to try it. That's the bottom line. You just have to come and you try it. Well, one more question. Are there any, and in this type of business, of course, I'm sure you have some anecdotal stories that you might share that just are kind of unique for you. You've only been with us for a few months, but do you have any stories like that you might share briefly?
Sure. Well, I think one thing that's so important to us is getting our food from as close to the restaurant as possible, because it's better, So we're very lucky to deal with some local producers like Dave and Dee Shear, who grow mushrooms in Sedley, Virginia, and Whitener Farm, which is on Old Myrtle Road. And they grow sweet potatoes and garlic and asparagus, which will be here in a week or two, which are so exciting. We use asparagus for maybe 6 weeks while they're growing in the ground in Suffolk, and we give them up for the rest of the year because they're just so special. We source our soft shell crabs from the Johnsons in Eclipse, and part of what makes this career so neat is just all the relationships that are built in time from dealing with these folks and getting our food straight from the folks who grow it.
Well, this is really exciting. We'll have an opportunity to take a closer look at some of the behind-the-scenes operations to see how all of this production comes into fruition. Here, so Harper, please.
Sure.
Lead the way.
It was really important in the design process of the restaurant that we used lots of local materials, and we made everything on purpose. So it wasn't like we just filled it up with knickknacks, but everything was intentional. So from here, things like the wood that we made our booths out of is maple, ambrosia maple from Surrey County, which is gorgeous, I think. And the tables that were made for us by Black Creek Workshop, each table made with the logo put into the table, which I think makes it a very unique. There's no table like that anywhere except for here. To the bar, which is covered in black steel, which is a very unique material, I think, for a bar, and then probably the most special and well-known element of the restaurant is the mural that was found during renovations for the restaurant. It was totally by accident. I can't do construction, but I thought I could probably do some demolition and get the process started and perhaps save a little bit of money. So as I was tearing down 3 layers of wall, 2 layers of drywall and a layer of beadboard, it was a total surprise to find this huge Coca-Cola mural on the wall. And of course we weren't going to cover it up. So it changed the design of where we thought we were going, but it's really something really special and makes the restaurant what it is, I think. To the rail where we keep the liquor was originally the beam holding up the front of the building, and during renovations we had to replace all of the storefront with new steel, and it was ridden with termites and in the trash pile, and I said, no, we can save that, we can do something with this. And here it is, a centerpiece at the bar. The canopy here above the booths is wood that was recovered by my wife's grandmother from the Suffolk Peanut Company warehouse. And it was in her family for a long time, and they were gracious enough to let me use it to really tie our restaurant to Suffolk. We have Old Suffolk with the mural and Old Suffolk with the wood from the Suffolk Peanut Company warehouse.
Tell me about I had read something about the shades on your lamps. Are they unique in some way?
Yeah, well, we decided that, again, I didn't want to be cliche, but I wanted this to be a Suffolk restaurant. And to me, the burlap covering around the lamps is reminiscent of the burlap sacks that have been such an integral part of the peanut business for so long that it seemed to work for me. This is a really unique spot that has lots of uses, from our regular normal dining hours to using it as a private room for corporate functions, family events, wedding events. It can be set up in lots of different ways to accommodate up to about 25 people. And the cubby holes share, a long story of me and this restaurant, and they can be customized for events with, things for corporate purposes or things for reminiscent of the couple getting married and things like that.
This is wonderful, and I just happened to see when I was dining that it was already in use during the regular hours, and you indicated, I guess, in an aside conversation that you're also available during hours that you're not open for businesses to lease the facility for a variety of purposes.
Absolutely, it can be used for all-day conference purposes. We do luncheons. It's a very usable space that can be used in lots of different ways.
That's great. That's absolutely great. Shall we take a look at the kitchen?
Absolutely.
All right, lead the way.
And so here's the kitchen at Harper's Table, and this is where I spend the majority of my time. And it's set up, we work 4 chefs for dinner service, and it's a very fast-paced, exciting career to have. And we spend all day, we make basically everything that we use, we make here in house. Down to we make our own butter, we make our own buttermilk. You know, we get fresh fish and we cut it when it comes in every day, and cut our own steaks. And you know, we take our vegetables from raw to the prepared the best way that we know how. You know, and it's always changing. It's always exciting because the seasons change, and we roll with the seasons. And Mother Nature tells us what you know, when it's time to cook what.
Now, what about? Did I read something about the iron skillets and how you use those also in some of the items that you serve? Yeah,
definitely. Well, the iron skillet is very symbolic, I think, of the way that our grandmothers and great-grandmothers cooked for a long, long time. And there's nothing like an iron skillet, you know. Okay. And we cook in them every day. We use them for serving a lot of our food in. Especially sides and these kinds of things, you know, that I think it's just so symbolic of what we do, you know, and other things that we use. We use the leftover pieces of wood that we had during construction. We turned into pieces that we serve our food on, you know, trying to make sure that nothing went to waste, because it was all so like I said, intentional and purposeful, that we wanted to make sure that everything was used that we possibly could.
Wonderful. Well, Harper, this has been a wonderful tour for me. It was a wonderful dining experience that I personally had recently, and we want to thank you very much.
Absolutely.
One, for choosing Suffolk, and two, for just using the skills that you have to bring this establishment. Before we leave, I'd like to remind our viewers one last time, if you'll tell us where you're located and your hours of operation.
Sure. We're right downtown at 122 North Main Street. We are open Tuesday through Saturday. We open every day at 5 o'clock. You can always go to the website. That's www.harperstable.com for more information, for current menus, and to stay up to date on what's going on.
Wonderful. Well, again, I thank you very much for choosing Suffolk and bringing such a wonderful establishment to our downtown area. And I say to our viewers, this concludes this edition of Suffolk Business Today. I've been your host, Gregory Bird, here with Harper Bradshaw. And once again, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Love local, buy Suffolk.